The Hollister Planning Commission on Thursday, April 24th, 2025. The meeting is now called to order and the time is 6 p.m. on the dot. Staff, please call the roll.
Commissioner Carla Torres de Luna. Here. Commissioner Damian Perez.
Here.
Commissioner Hani Maizuni.
Here.
Chair Stephen Belong.
Present. Commissioner Mazzuni, can you please lead us in the pledge? Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we're going to move on to item 4. This is the time for anyone in the audience to speak on any item not on the agenda within the subject matter of the jurisdiction of the commission. Speaker cards are available in the lobby and are to be completed and given to staff before speaking. When staff calls your name, please come to the podium, state your name and city for the record, and speak to the commission. If you are joining us via Zoom, please click on the bottom of the screen to raise your hand. If you are joining us via Zoom using a cell phone, please press number 9. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes with a maximum of 30 minutes per subject. Please note that the state law prohibits the commission from discussing or taking action on any items not on the agenda. Staff, do we have any public comments?
No public comments.
Okay, with no public comments, we'll move on to consent items. Can we get approval for February 27th and March 13th meeting minutes? Or do we have any questions from the commissions?
No question.
Hearing none, staff, do we have any public comments regarding the minutes?
No public comments.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion for accepting the minutes.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the minutes.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
There is a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 4-0. We can move on to item number 6, 6.1. May we have the staff report?
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Magda Gonzalez. I am presenting Site and Architectural Review 2024-2. The applicant is Craigo Investment, and the address is 600 Ernie Drive. The site is an Amazon distribution center. The application is solely for a monument sign to be located on a corner of the already entitled facility. The monument sign will be double-sided, illuminated. It will be more of a directional informational sign than anything else. It will state that it will identify the Amazon Fulfillment Center. It will direct people to the visitor section and trucks, as well as providing the address. It has setbacks of 3 feet 6 inches on one side and 30 inches on the other from the curve. It will be two-sided, facing east and west. The area highlighted by the blue mark indicates specifically where it will be, and it just references the setbacks that I previously mentioned. No. And there are specific dimensions for the monument sign and the colors that they're proposing as well. Again, the elevations, I'm just showing what it will, how it will look on both sides, the east and the west side. The proposed monument sign meets the requirements established in the municipal code. A monument sign has to be presented to the Planning Commission for your consideration. It's not asking for anything out of the ordinary. It's 50 square feet. It's under 6 feet tall, and it's pretty small in significance to the size of the warehouse. It also complies with the Airport Land Use Commission. It was reviewed by them as well, and they deemed it consistent with the Airport Land Use Compatibility Plan. And it's also exempt from SEQA pursuant to Section 15302, existing facilities. The Planning Commission has several options to consider. The first one would be to adopt a resolution approving SNA 2024-2, subject to the findings and conditions contained in the draft attachment, which is staff's recommendation. Option number 2, which is a resolution approving SNA 2024-2 with findings or conditions of approval modified by the Planning Commission. Option number 3, to deny the proposed project, or option number 4, to continue the hearing and direct staff to provide additional information or clarification. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from the commission?
I guess just to understand, these are the only signs that, just this east and west?
There are wall signs. Those do not require to be presented to the Planning Commission, but any monument sign has to come before you.
Got it,
Yeah.
okay. And this is the facing, if you're looking at the building from, is it San Felipe Road?
Yeah, let me change back to the. It's on Ernie Drive,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, I'm sorry, I'm Michael Drive.
By the airport, right?
Yes, yeah. I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank on the name of
I'm
the
assuming
street.
it's coming, will you be able to see it because it's a monument size from
Yeah,
the-
it's not very big. It is
Okay.
it's under 6 feet tall, but you
Okay.
would be able to see it for the trucks to be able to.
Right.
Yeah, for
Right,
trucks.
that's what
yeah.
I think visually is a
Yes.
good thing
Yes.
for the
yeah.
trucks and whoever's delivering.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
That's it.
How is it illuminated? Is the lights on the sign, or is it the light on the ground?
It's on the sign. Yeah.
So basically where like the blue would be illuminated? Or?
Correct.
Okay.
I don't know if this is related, but I'm just curious because is that where the roundabout, there's a roundabout that like feeds into the Amazon?
It is on the corner of the building. The roundabout would be on the other side. Yeah.
Okay. But that's that road that goes straight to the, right?
To go towards the back. Yeah.
Is there a plan to put a sign near there at all?
Not by this company.
But,
If-
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, just curious.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's all.
Is there any further questions? No? Okay. I'll now open up the public hearing at 6:09.
No public comments online.
Okay, we'll now close public hearing at 6:09 and move on to entertain a motion.
Can we see the, thank you. I mean, I think I have a motion to, I'd like to make a motion to adopt a resolution approving S&A 2024-2.
I second that.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 4-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item 6.2, Appeal 25-1 for 1381 Carriage Road Fence Extension Appeal.
Good evening. My name is Marco Martinez. I'm one of the engineers with the city's engineering department. And the item before you tonight is Appeal 2025-1 submitted by Alan Leon. It's regarding the fence extension appeal at 1381 Carriage Road. Let me see here. So the appeal was submitted by Alan Leon, and the project location is 1381 Carriage Road within tract 341 of the Marabella 2 subdivision. On September 25, 2024, the City of Hollister's Code Enforcement Department identified a violation of the City Ordinance 1716-050 for the property 1381 Carriage Road. Code Enforcement followed up with the city's engineering division and identified no fence extension permits were ever pulled. Under Code Enforcement Compliance Order 24-2522, the applicant was instructed to submit a fence extension application as a corrective action on or before October 25th, 2024 to rectify the unpermitted fence extension. On October 17, 2024, the property owner, Alan Leon, submitted a fence extension application package to the engineering division. The application package requested for the legalization of the non-conforming fence as shown in Figure 3 of the staff report. Okay. As shown by the slides, the fence is less than a foot away from the back of walk. On October 28, 2024, the city's engineering division reiterated to the property owner that the extended fence was in violation of the municipal code. And the engineering's decision was based on section 1716-050, where fence extension must adhere to the required setbacks for medium density residential performance overlay, otherwise classified as the R3 zoning district. The required setback for the fence fronting North Gonzalez Drive is 10 feet, and it's 15 feet along the frontage of the house, which is a carriage road. As shown in Figure 4 of the staff report, which is also on the slide, clearly the fence is nearly to the back of walk. The applicant was also informed they would need a revised fence extension application to push back the unpermitted fence outside of the 10-foot public utility easement. So the home was actually built in 2021 and had a side yard fence that was abutted to the southwest corner of the home, as shown by their plot plan. Oops. And this slide itself shows the current fence extension, the unpermitted fence extension location, and the pony retaining wall at the back of that fence. The green arrow shows where the public utility easement starts, and based on the plot plan, the fence was lying, when the home was built, it was lying right on top of the PUE, which is abiding by our municipal code. The engineering department reiterated this back to Mr. Leone, and Mr. Leone conveyed to city staff the need to seek for legal advice from an attorney. On January 10th, 2025, the city of Hollister attorney Jennifer Thompson and Mary Lerner met with Mr. Leone's attorney, Jason Redder, regarding the engineering decision based on the city's municipal code. During the meeting, the applicant's counsel requested an exemption from the city engineer relying on clause from the city's municipal code, table 1716-1, which indicates an exception to allow a fence in height of 6 feet within a 10-foot setback on the side street corner of the lot. However, this requires the city engineer to make the evaluation to see if the fence is still going to be in compliance with the easements and rights of way. The city engineer, Mark Falgott, was unable to grant the exception to this case, as the PUE within lot 91 within tract 341 is 10 feet. Granting an exception in this case within the 10-foot setback would be considered not consistent with the established easement, hence the city engineer's inability to provide the exception. For instance, if the PUE was a 6-foot wide PUE, the city engineer would have the authority to grant the exception to allow the fence up to the 6-foot PUE. Since the PUE is 10 feet at Carriage Road, the city engineer does not have the authority to provide such exception, which deems the clause from Municipal Code 1716-1 as unapplicable. On January 15, 2025, Mr. Leone was provided with a letter from the city engineer indicating the inability to provide an exception through the administrative approval process. The letter to Mr. Leone provided instructions on how to proceed with requesting an appeal process as shown in section 1724-140 of the city's municipal code. On January 29, 2025, the applicant filed a timely appeal to the city engineer's determination regarding the fence location and interpretation of the city's municipal code. The applicant's arguing points were they were claiming the original fence was actually installed incorrectly and was actually placed 4.5 feet into the 10-foot public utility easement, as shown in attachment A of the staff report. It's not on the slides, I apologize, but however, there is simply just no clear evidence that the builder installed the fence incorrectly. In order to capture the modest amount of additional approximately 4 feet of unusable space from the side yard setback area, the Leones extended the fence closer to the edge of the sidewalk or the property line. The Leones also replaced the fence with nicer, sturdier, substantial, more expensive fence. That's what the applicant was claiming. That's their arguing point. However, the fence material is actually not acceptable per the city's municipal code. The city's municipal code calls for a wooden fence, and their fence is composed of metal components. So that's another feature that does not abide by the city's municipal code. Another arguing point presented by Mr. Leone was the arguing point that that the city's interpretation of the city engineer's ability to provide this exception. They were claiming the city engineer does have the authority to provide the exception. However, the clause consistent with the easements and rights of way is the key words within that table, which the this certain scenario is not applicable to this certain scenario. So the fact that it's a 10-foot PUE makes that that section of the municipal code as unapplicable. So the city engineer can't grant that exception. And so another arguing point by the Mr. Leon was that the subdivision currently has sound walls that are placed right at the back of walk. However, those sound walls are maintained by the city, and they were actually installed as part of the subdivision agreements and conditions to prevent sound pollution to the neighborhood. So those were established as part of the subdivision requirements. So that is also unapplicable. And so those are just additional pictures of the sound wall within the subdivision. So in terms of CEQA, of course, the location of the fencing is exempt. It doesn't have any potential for causing an effect to the environment. In conclusion, the staff has reviewed the applicant's request for the placement of the rear yard fence at 1381 Carriage Road within the Marabella subdivision. And it has determined, we have determined that it could create potential hazards in terms of visibility around the corner, and it is also inconsistent with a PUE dedicated to the subdivision properties. While city records indicate that there's no city-owned utilities within the easement, other utility providers may have utility systems located in the easement. However, the city cannot make determinations on behalf of other utility purveyors. The city's residential fence guidelines were established to protect utility easements in residential subdivisions. Public utility easements are essential for any part of any type of development and are established to provide utility providers with access to maintain and expand their systems as regulated by the California Public Utility Commission. The applicant also makes reference to the fence extension application 21005, which is also attached to the staff report, where the city allowed the exception for a fence in a public utility easement at 1460 Waterwheel Lane, which is also within that subdivision. However, that exception was granted under different direction of the engineering department, and that exception was limited to a 6-foot setback. Mr. Leon proceeded to also extend his property fence without a permit, and the exception that was granted, I believe in 2021, the applicant actually submitted an application prior to just doing the work. So, like I stated beforehand, the exception was under different leadership, and it doesn't justify a reason to, violate the municipal code section pertaining to fence extensions. So just because somebody else did it doesn't make it right. The applicant also argues the sound wall, like I was elaborating earlier. However, like I said, the sound wall was established as part of the subdivision improvement agreements. The applicant has appealed this request and asked the Planning Commission to overturn the city's determination to and allow a residential fence and a pony wall, a pony retaining wall on the westmost property line of Lot 91 of the Marabella subdivision in accordance with the city's municipal code 17-16050. Under the provisions of section 1724-140, the Planning Commission may affirm its part or reverse the action, decisions, or determination that that is the subject of appeal. Staff recommends the Planning Commission deny the appeal, affirm the city staff's determination on Municipal Code Section 1716.050 regarding the location of the fence, and direct the applicant to revise their fence extension application to relocate the fence back to the original placement as shown in Figure 2 of the plot plan. So before you are Planning Commission's options. So like I previously stated, is one, to adopt the resolution denying Appeal 2025-1 based on the findings contained in the draft resolution. Two, adopt the resolution approving the appeal and reversing the determination of staff based on findings established by the Planning Commission. Or three, continue the item and request additional information or clarification from staff. Of course, staff's recommendation is to reinforce the integrity of, Section 1716.050, which pertains to fence extensions, and to remove. This will basically enable to remove the unpermitted pony concrete retaining wall, an outdoor bar shed, and fence within the established public utility easement, removing vertical obstructions from the PUE. This will allow utility purveyors to exercise their legal right to access the infrastructure to perform necessary repairs or perform future subdivision upgrades.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from the commission?
Yes. Oh, go ahead. Oh, I have a couple. Can you talk a little bit about when their appeals when you all have approved appeals or exemptions for fences like this? And I know you referenced the one that was referenced a couple years ago, and you said it was
Right.
under different leadership.
Correct.
So I'm just, trying to understand, should it be based on different leadership, or should it be based on other things, or,
So we
yeah.
we make our decisions based off the municipal code.
Okay.
So perhaps the previous leadership wasn't, referencing the municipal code as it's supposed to, and so perhaps that's why that exception got granted. But under current leadership, we're abiding by we're trying to reinforce our decisions based off of the municipal code.
Okay, and then I want to understand what the safety hazard is, if any. What are there any complaints of neighbors? And if not, I want to understand if not as well.
Absolutely. So the fence does pose it does conflict with what they call a visibility sight triangle, which is like when you're turning the corner. It does provide issues with traffic's or vehicles entering the intersection or trying to see incoming traffic entering the intersection. So it is a potential traffic hazard in terms of visibility. Also, another big one is, like I said, it doesn't allow direct access to utility purveyors to access their systems. Purveyors such as telecommunications or even PG&E to access their utilities, or even if they want to expand in the future, let's say they want to roll out with a fiber network. Obviously, the fence would be in the way, and they wouldn't have access to.
Well, that's interesting you say that, because in your report you said there wasn't an issue.
City-owned utilities.
City-owned utilities. There
Yeah.
was not an issue with that.
No, I said there was no city-owned utilities in the public utility easement.
Right.
However, the city does not have the right to speak on behalf of the utility purveyors.
Right.
They could potentially have systems. Yeah.
I mean, that could be any potential
Yeah,
home
and it's
anywhere in the city, right?
Yeah, correct.
So not
most-
just this house.
Yeah, correct. Most houses do have these utility easements running through the side or the front.
And I do think that there's a letter here that where it states the applicant said if in the future or whenever that is needed, they are more than willing to abide by and have accessibility and even pay, right?
Correct, but this poses another issue. So if we grant an exception to this case, everybody else is gonna want this exception. So,
Everybody-
what about previous owners that we did deny and we did have them move their fence back?
What about that? What happened?
Yeah.
What do you
I'm-
think might happen?
Well, in terms of fairness,
What would happen? So let's say,
Uh,
let's go
I-
with that scenario. What do you think would happen?
I mean, there's a reason why these public utility easements were established.
I'm trying to understand your scenario though. Like, so let's say we did grant it. You're saying other
Okay.
people would, so
Other people would want to violate the municipal code.
they would want to violate it.
Correct. He did it. I want to do it.
So it's setting a precedence.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes.
The only difference between this situation and the one at 1460 Water Wheel, that
Mhm.
the application wasn't submitted ahead of time, or
No.
is
So
Water Wheel also not within the 10 feet?
so water wheel lane. They submitted an application beforehand.
Is that the only difference? Or
Correct.
are all the other variables the same, like the city had the authority to grant the exception, or they didn't have the authority?
No, so the only difference, one of the only differences was the leadership that the decisions were being based off of. Currently, we're trying to, uphold the municipal code. And so our decisions are based off of the municipal code. We're trying to do the right thing. We're not trying to base our decisions off of thin air. So it could perhaps that it slipped through the cracks, or, I can't speak on behalf of the leadership decisions being made at the time.
I understand that. It's just that there should be some predictability to how municipal code is applied. And right now, if all the inputs were the same and the outcome was different, the only difference here is that this applicant didn't submit their exception
Correct.
ahead
They,
of time. But the
they,
city and the other, again, I'm just trying to understand if 1460 Water Wheel, if their POE was 10 feet or within the 6 feet. Because earlier you mentioned that the city only has a ability to allow exceptions if it's 6 feet or less POEs. Is that correct?
correct. So the PUE along Water Wheel Lane was also 10 feet.
Oh.
However, their setback, they proposed a 6.5 setback
So they're not
currently.
all the way to the.
Correct. And they also applied before doing the work. In this case, they did the work and then they got caught by code enforcement. And then code enforcement followed up and had them submit.
Since the new leadership took over, was there any exception?
No, none. Not that I have seen, no.
No.
Can I just add something? So the city staff is required to abide by the code. They're not really allowed to make exceptions at the staff level. And so to the extent that that happened in the past, it really wasn't supposed to happen. And so current staff is really trying to abide by the code. However, the planning commission does have discretion, so where staff is required to follow the code as written, which is what they've done. The planning commission, the purpose of the appeal is that the planning commission does have some discretion to make exceptions if the circumstances vary. So that's why we're here.
Thank
And
you.
when did the new leadership took over?
I would say early 2022.
Okay, because in that neighborhood, I know there's a couple.
Correct. And code enforcement has been treating these cases the same. So they have been, issuing code compliance cases.
Actually, to be honest, it's ugly.
And so we're trying to set a precedence for,
So you can go back and fix what was an exception, or go back and apply the code?
Oh, that's an interesting question.
Because if we have something across the board for everybody, then really nobody will complain. But if I come in and say, okay, well, this person, that person, that person, all have exceptions, why not me?
Mm-hmm.
correct.
What I would recommend is that any time that the staff, to the extent that they're allowed to grant an exception, or the planning commission grant an exception, you make findings, which are, you know, statements of the reason why you've made that decision. And typically those findings are going to distinguish why this situation is different from any of the others.
I have a couple other questions. When you
Yes.
mentioned the safety hazard of the view.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the exhibit C. I'm trying to understand that better, and I don't know that I would agree or understand that that's a safety hazard. So I don't know if you could show me.
Okay, so, let me see.
It's on the corner, but how,
Yes,
because look
let me
in
see.
here, look in here.
You're
So
blocking my
if
view when I'm
no-
coming out.
North Gonzales is the primary, it's a primary, it's still a local road, but it's one of the primary entrances to the subdivision. So if you're stopped at the front of the house of 1381 Carriage, you could potentially have issues seeing the oncoming cars. These subdivisions are already constructed with, you know, visibility side issues alone, even without a fence. So a fence in place just makes it worse.
Okay. And you mentioned the sounding board.
Yes, so the sound walls within the
Sound walls.
subdivision, they are actually placed right at the back of walk.
Uh-huh.
However, those are implemented to prevent sound pollution.
But what's the, like, controversy with that? What's the issue? How
So-
is that a,
So the applicant was claiming, why is the sound wall at the back of walk? As opposed to, why can't I have my fence like the sound wall? But the sound wall was established as
separate.
part of the subdivision agreement, yeah. And, oh,
I know the applicant, you offered a compromise to the applicants previously, by going like 5 feet back instead of 10. Was that a compromise offered last time, right?
so on, I didn't offer that to the applicant, if that's what you're asking, on
No,
the
not you,
previous,
but I mean, the city.
yeah, the city. However, they were proposing a setback of 6.5 feet, which, I mean, it's quite significant. It's quite the significant difference as opposed to this case where it's literally to the back of walk.
So the city is not offering that anymore? Is that
No,
what-
no, like I said, we're trying to uphold the municipal code.
Okay.
one other question.
Yes.
How often do we review the municipal code, and what would be the process to amend it if possible, if needed?
I don't know the answer to that question.
I can speak to the process. It's not particularly difficult. It's done by the city council and it's done in 2 meetings. So basically, usually what happens is either city council requests an amendment or staff identifies something that needs to change and they propose an amendment. They bring it to the city council for approval, and they consider it, and then it comes back to a second meeting where they adopt it. And it's noticed in the, local newspaper so people can come out and discuss, but it's, essentially it takes 2 council meetings to change the ordinance.
Thank you. I'm wondering, I'm just throwing that out and want to have this conversation with you all about, if there's a reason why people are building several fences like this, what is that about, right? This is our community. Is there a reason? Do we have to amend our municipal code? I'm just throwing that out there as a possibility. Like what's that about? Because I also don't want to be a city where we're punitive and we're just like, no, because it says so, because I said no. Well, why? Why are we saying that? Doesn't make sense. I don't know.
So public utility easements are typically established by most jurisdictions. And so
But
it's a general rule of thumb to keep those public utility easements clear, just for maintenance purposes. So
I have a question for legal. So, based on the applicant's lawyer's letter that I read earlier, they said they were willing to make the necessary cost changes if there was something needed. If, let's say, AT&T came out and there's underground broadband that needed to be corrected or something. what happens if the applicant can't afford the changes? What happens in that instance? I mean, do they just do the work and then just leave it as is?
What I would recommend is that if you chose to take that route, that you would record something on the property that basically requires the applicant to move the fence or pay for whatever movement needs to happen if there needs to be utility work. And then if they don't make a payment, that it would be placed as a lien on the property, the amount due, so that if the property sold at some point, the city would be reimbursed. Or I guess whichever utility company needed to be reimbursed.
Is the applicant the owner or the builder?
Believe it's the owner. And so, as shown by the pictures, it's not only a fence; it's a retaining wall
Yep.
and a bar. And
What happens if the property is sold to another person?
That was gonna be my follow-up to legal. So if we did use our discretion, does that automatically place it on the new owner? The
Yeah,
same, the same stipulations?
Yeah, anything that's recorded, the purpose is to notify the next owner. So it would run with, essentially what we call run with the land, where it like just keeps on with, no matter who owns it. Yeah.
And so, as shown by the retaining wall, there's electrical, I assume, involved. I haven't seen the fence on the private side, but I have seen it on the public side.
See, my concern is that, okay, this leadership wanna force the code. What if the next leadership doesn't wanna force the code? I mean, now what?
Right.
So now I'm gonna be really upset if I was the owner,
Oh, yeah.
that you didn't accept mine, but now the new leadership say looks fine. So, this is really sticky. I mean, I'm kind of debating in my mind about this. This is not a straightforward
No.
answer.
Right, and you mentioned there are various other fences that with code enforcement
Exactly, I've
cases
seen it
in
in
that
the-
subdivision.
Yeah.
That are right now pending?
Correct. Multiple.
Okay. Asking for the same thing?
Correct.
Oh.
I have a question in process though. They mentioned it'd be like $20,000 for this fence, that's a lot of money. Probably professional did it. Who usually submits the application for this type of,
The owner.
the owner, not
Yeah.
the contractor?
Sometimes, every now and then, but typically the owner.
And you did mention the materials being metal and which looks really nice.
Yeah.
And so I have, in the municipal code, is that also detailed, like the
Correct.
material?
Wood.
The same municipal code?
Correct. Yeah, this section of the municipal code that I
'Cause
referenced.
See, that would be something that I would want us to consider.
So, yeah, I was gonna piggyback off of that. Is that a citywide code, or is that just for that subdivision?
Yes, it's citywide.
That
It's
seems
listed
really-
in the municipal code, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that, yeah, that seems kind of.
Well, it does pose, like, for instance, if you have a metal fence, a car hits it, potentially it could be more, devastating to the injuries
To
or
who?
whatnot, to whoever is impacted in the,
Whoever ran into your fence?
that or to whoever's walking near the sidewalk too. I mean, bike riders or people walking their dogs or whatever. But yeah, it's considered a more rigid object rather than a wooded. So it could be classified as more dangerous.
Just a gentle reminder to the commission, when you're speaking, if you wouldn't mind making sure your mics are on and that you're close enough so we can ensure that people online can hear you as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
I wanted to get a point of clarification. So you said in 2021, they submitted a permit before the work was done? Or was that for the?
No, that was for the
Previous project, okay.
for the water wheel. That was when that application was approved back in 2021.
Okay.
But even though this applicant, or can we refer to them as an applicant?
Yeah.
This homeowner
Yeah.
didn't submit an application, they have complied with like completing the appeal and all this process, right?
Yes, but they did the work without pulling the permits. The other case, they did their due diligence and, you know, applied for a permit, did their information before spending, what, $20,000 on a fence, to ensure that it was gonna get approved.
If they would have submitted the application under this new leadership, would the,
No, it wouldn't have gotten approved.
okay.
Yeah.
It would have came before the commission for our discretionary.
No, you would.
No, so
wouldn't.
it,
Okay.
yeah, there would have been no appeal, simply because, or actually, would they be able, like, let's say they submit an, application before they did the work, they would still be entitled to the appeal, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
if
yeah,
their
so-
application was denied.
If they
Yeah.
appealed.
And then it would come before us for
Correct.
our
But
discretion.
the 20,000 or whatever amount they spent wouldn't have gone to, you know, building it.
Well, can we go back, I mean, this is a question for attorney, I guess. Can we go back and force our code on all the exceptions we had before, or not?
Not if there's been a documented exception, so if, you know, the city engineer said this one's okay, you could not go back and change that decision.
Okay, thank you.
Can we see the recommendations? Who do
Yeah.
we? Because we still have to have public.
Yeah, we have to have
Okay.
a public hearing.
Okay.
Is there any further questions for staff from the commission?
No.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll open now for a public hearing at 6:46 PM. Staff, do we have a presentation from the appellant on this item?
So yes, the appellant will be coming up to speak.
Hello, my name's Alan. I'm the homeowner at 1381 Carriage Road. So I bought it, I want to say about 3 years ago. I did provide aerial views from where the fence is extended. It was extended about 4 feet, 4 inches. How I know about all these little details is I'm a union electrician. I did the electrical. I had a professional company do the fencing, the cement, the concrete. That's why the finances to take charge of the cost in the future are no problem. I have a great job. I'm well enough to be able to have that ability. And like I said, it was 4 feet, 4 inches. I did make the honest mistake of not getting an application. I didn't think it was that big of a deal. That is my mistake. Once I was informed that I was unlawfully unpermitted, I came right away. I spoke to a bunch of people. They guided me in the right direction, filled it out, paid all the necessary fees, and then now we are here in this position here. But if you do look at the plot plan, I believe there's something there. I don't have this presentation. It says that it's a 10-foot easement, but the corner of my house is 10 feet, 0.94 inches from the corner. And if I were to push it, or if it was built with 10 feet, that fence would literally be in my living room, pretty much. There was a fence, it was 4 feet, 4 inches, which is what I extended, thinking it wasn't that big of a deal, which is my mistake. And that's what I would like to hopefully get approved for. And like I said, I'm a union electrician, so I know what to look for. And all Christie boxes, manholes, any utilities, they are actually in my front yard. So nothing is obstructed.
We can't respond. Huh?
No.
Can't ask nothing. Okay.
You can ask the applicant questions
Okay.
if you have any.
I'm curious about what you think of the viewing in terms of safety and traffic.
I missed that part, actually. Thank you for
Okay.
bringing it up. I live on the corner. I've been living there for 3 years. There's, from the sidewalk to the street, I believe it's like 11 feet. There's a huge landscaping piece with trees and bushes and stuff like that. I don't see any restricted view whatsoever, whether you're all the way to the stop sign or even a few feet behind the stop sign. That landscaping actually permits you to get a perfect view in all directions.
Thank you.
And you said that when you purchased the home, the fence wasn't on the POE line, right next to the house.
It was
You had-
4 feet 4 inches. If you look at one of the pictures there, my neighbors in the back, there's actually a model home. We're all the first owners there. Our fence was completely in line. So you can see where I popped mine out about 4 feet. So if you look at their fence line, just follow it down the path, and that's pretty much where my fence was at exactly.
So it was already within the POE.
Yes.
So what would have been the existing fence was already in the PUEs?
Correct. The original, you would say, built by the homeowner.
Mhm.
Yeah, because I bought it brand new. I bought a piece of dirt, they built it, took like a year.
Any further questions for Mr. Leon?
So you're the original owner of this property?
Correct.
And when you received the house from the developer, where was the fence?
4 feet 4 inches
From
from
the
the
corner.
sidewalk.
From the sidewalk?
Correct.
Okay.
And I provided a couple of pictures. I don't know if they're in this presentation, but they are in my appeal and all the information my lawyer presented to you guys.
So it seems like the
I think it's Exhibit B.
E maybe?
I think it's B. Where it shows
Oh,
the
We're
planter.
showing this?
So that'll show you what I extended there from the neighbor's black fence. And also, as far as the materials that he stated are illegal being metal, it's actually a metal overlay. If you actually dig out the dirt a little bit, you'll see the wood pole cemented 3-4 feet into the dirt. The metal just makes it look nicer, a little bit more modern, but it's really a wooden fence.
It's a wooden fence.
So
Correct.
it's basically framed in wood with.
With a
Metal
metal
slab.
hollow tubing over it,
Oh,
and then the wood across it. So it's really, what's making its imprint on the floor is a wooden pole. So
And,
it's-
and the frame is wood, like this,
The little black trim is metal,
That's
but
the only
just-
metal.
That's the only metal.
so like using the scenario, if a car were to go through it,
There's 98% wood,
okay,
about 2% metal.
okay, thank you for explaining. I'm like, this whole thing is metal? No,
No,
it's not, okay.
That'd be even way more expensive.
Yeah, okay.
Any further questions for Mr. Leon?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Staff, do we have any additional public comments?
We don't have any speaker cards, and let me check online. No speakers online. I do want to state for the record that staff did receive a written comment from Mr. Leon's attorney yesterday that has been distributed to the dais as well as made available in the lobby. And staff will also be posting it online tomorrow to make sure that it's a part of the packet as well.
The public hearing is now closed. Commissioners, do you have any additional questions, comments, and/or a motion?
Can we ask staff again, or?
Yeah,
Ask
certainly,
questions?
you can ask
Yeah.
staff more questions.
Could you confirm if the fence was received by the owner from the developer, not in the POE line? Is that something that you would have in city records, or?
So the plot plan I provided is the city record. That's what, essentially, when you build a house, that's what the house should be built to. And so typically we like, if we're trying to look in the past, we try to rely on like Google Street View or, other sources that have been like surveyed. And so this subdivision technically doesn't have there's no proof that the fence was actually built not per plot plan. The applicant never
We see a
provided it.
picture. So I'm wondering if that's how it was received by the developer and it wasn't caught during an inspection, the final inspection. I don't know
Well,
if it's-
what I'm saying is the applicant never submitted like proof that the original fence extension, that it was pushed into the PUE when he bought the house.
okay.
They provided aerial images, but I mean, who knows when those were taken. As far as like what we have as proof how the house was built is the plot plan. Clearly, it's stamped by an engineer and signed off by the city. So that's what we have.
That was a plan, right? But it doesn't mean that that's
Correct.
where the fence
So
ended.
yeah.
It's not an
Also,
actual picture.
To add to this, the pony retaining wall. I checked with their building official. Since it is a retaining wall and it does have electrical, there was no building permits that were ever pulled for it.
What do you think about what he explained about the fence material being like 90% wood?
I mean, like I said, we try to kind of uphold the municipal code. So if it has metal components, it's still metal.
So no fence in our city is allowed to have metal components.
Correct. Within the section of the municipal code's
Right.
residential guidelines.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, that's concerning. I mean, I think for a motion, I definitely feel like you said something earlier, there's still questions I think that I have. I'm not comfortable doing number one, but, I don't know, what do you all think? I kind of am leading for, trying to understand, because I think it's unfair, right? Although I understand municipal code, but which I also think needs to be reviewed. So I don't know, chicken before the egg, you know what I mean? I don't know. So I wonder if maybe continuing the item and requesting and kind of doing a little more research and. So I put that motion out. Unless, we want to discuss another.
So I just want to clarify the
Yeah.
motion. The motion is to table the item.
If we want to keep things going straight for everybody, and across the board, we need to have to take a stand and say, okay, enough. We're going to start from today, not do this.
But they're
Yeah.
not straight for everybody.
Yes, they are, based on the new leadership. I mean, based on now, they are using the code for everybody across the board.
My concern is that if we don't go with option number one, we're setting a precedence. And at that point, we're allowing just anybody to do whatever they want after
Exactly.
the fact, right? It's a very unfortunate situation. I do feel for the homeowner. I read through your lawyer's proposal, and there should have been some type of, like you were stating, code enforcement when the developer developed the property. In my instance, and this is neither here nor there, but when I bought my property, I bought it with the anticipation that I was going to have RV parking on the side because it's big enough for RV parking. But the city put a utility box right where where I could pull in for the RV. So now I can't use that. But it's neither here nor there. It's after the fact. But if I were to put in a permit to do so, I guess I'd be notified that I couldn't do that. So this is a really hard one.
It is a hard one.
It is because, I mean, it's done after the fact. I think if the permit was pulled, the applicant would have had a chance to, make concessions or decisions on his own to go with city's recommendation.
One more question. Do developers have to pull, or is there any inspection done on the final build of the property?
Yes. And
And-
typically the inspection is based off of the plot plan.
And so this should have been caught if the fence wasn't
Well,
on the POE?
There's no evidence that the fence was installed 4.5 feet from the house.
That's
What-
not an item on the final walkthrough? The
Yeah,
fence?
yes, that is. However, I know the applicant was stating that the fence would be technically in their living room, but the plot plan shows it right abutted, right next to the house. So technically, he should have, or the applicant should have never had a side yard fence.
They would have never had a side yard?
Yeah, correct, the side yard.
I mean, I
Yeah.
saw in the picture, but there would be, a side yard, but it wouldn't be accessible from the backyard. 'Cause it would
Correct.
be-
They would have a backyard, but the fact that they extended the fence outwards grants them that side yard, because they do have a backyard. Yeah.
Because in the picture that I saw, there was no way to walk from your backyard to your side yard
Amber,
if they were to build it right against the corner of the house.
Amber, can you switch to the plot plan?
And saying that there's no evidence that that's true, there's also no evidence that it isn't. I just want us to be clear, right? That,
Our evidence that we use is the plot plan. It's
but that doesn't mean that that's what happened.
correct, but how do we know that it wasn't?
And how do we know that?
So just to
Okay.
clarify if I can, so a plot plan is issued, and when the home itself is being finalized, when the building inspector is going out, that is what they're going off of. So that would be the initial record. Yes, the fence would have been set at this initial point. The point on which it becomes, when did the fence get moved? There would not have been a building inspector at that time because it had already been inspected for the original plot plan approval. Does that make sense?
So originally, the plot was approved. I mean, it was signed off on, that everything was in code.
Yes.
Correct.
So the plan set that we have, the inspector goes out, the building inspector goes out and says, this matches this.
So
So,
can we get that record for not only this property, but the model home behind it? To see where the record shows that the fence was built and signed off?
yes,
Post-build?
in theory, yes, you could ask to
That
get
could
that
be-
from the building department.
But the inspector has to approve based on the code. So
Yeah.
they will not pass the house once it's built unless it's approved by the,
Unless they
Code.
made a mistake or they were like right? Like,
No, as far as I'm concerned, they don't make exceptions to
exactly.
plot plans. You have to approve what is, otherwise it would go back, and it wouldn't have been approved. It would
Correct.
go back for revisions.
So the inspector will not pass if the
Yeah.
wall
See,
has
that's-
been moved.
That's the part that's not lining up for me, though. That was the intention, and that's what we thought should have happened. But if he's the original owner, and when he purchased the home, and the pictures provided, if it's at that time, shows that it's not at the 10-foot line, then that means that it was approved not on the 10-foot line or signed off with inspection. So I'm just thinking, just to maybe pull a record and see what story that tells, if it confirms it or not. I
That's
think
a
it would
good
be worth
idea.
looking.
which would be recommendation number 3, right?
That's a clear ask, I think, right?
That is a clear ask.
Only to, we're human, right? We make mistakes. And it doesn't make, like, when you look at the picture, why would you expect the fence to hit the corner of the house,
Mhm,
right? So maybe just not looking, if you're not looking for it, you're not gonna catch it.
mhm.
So, and then the picture again, I'm doubtful that this plot plan was honored in the final post-build checklist.
So let's say we do find a mistake, right? Mistakes happen. We're still trying to set a precedence, right?
But it seems like the developer, they were allowed to build a model home and this one if the fence were aligned, right? If this fence was a continuation of that house, that was also, if they have a similar POE on that property, it's already like, okay, there's 2 homes now
Right.
from the get-go that were not aligning to the plot plan.
So you have to fix the whole neighborhood, potentially.
Now we're passing the responsibility to the homeowners when it could have been caught earlier on, right? And I think it's just finding the true source of this issue, that it's not your fault, it's not the
Right.
city's fault, it's just like,
Right.
just trying
Right.
to make sure that we're getting to the source of this issue. And I know like it was then moved again,
Right.
or it was moved to where it's at right now, but I'm just trying to figure out the original.
So if the builder did incorrectly build this, wouldn't the owner be able to go after the builder?
How? The process is this, right? This would be the process, and going along with, 'cause I didn't even think about that, potentially, and you're saying there's other applicant, or other homeowners who have code enforcement violations.
Correct.
It'll be
It
worth to see
could
those
be-
as well. if
Right,
possible.
it
Can
could
we see
be
those as
this
well?
scenario too, that it's not their fault, right? Not your fault, not
Yeah.
our fault, but I think that's something worth us looking into, and I would hate for us to be going after homeowners when it was not you know, it wasn't their fault to begin with, and that's a good thing for us to look into, maybe. And respect, like, right, if the understanding municipal code, but then if this neighborhood has this issue, maybe there's something there that we need to look at.
So in that case, are you saying the inspector made an exception at that time?
Maybe not intentionally, just, again, it could have been an oversight.
Because the inspector's supposed to go based on the code.
Supposed
on
to,
the- On the
yes.
blueprint.
Supposed to, I agree.
So
What
you're
if they do?
assuming there was an exception done?
I mean, if this picture is truly at when they first got the keys to the property, it shows that it wasn't per that line right there.
And do we have that paperwork?
The
That's what we're
paperwork,
asking for.
The final sign off from
That's
inspector.
what we want
That
to
the
Yeah.
ask.
final
That's what we want to
Yeah.
ask for.
The
we,
inspector signed off, and they have the blueprint where it shows.
well, it's not gonna be a blueprint. I believe Amber, is it just,
Probably not gonna show, because you're not gonna have big kids, right?
right,
Right,
it's,
so
it's
it's
most likely
really
just
just
gonna
gonna
be a
be-
permit card.
Yeah, it's a permit card. He's just gonna sign off on it
So,
and saying, yes, this is done, this is according to the code, and I'm done.
If I can, sorry to interrupt, if I can help. When the inspectors go out to do all of their inspections, they are signing what's called a job card. They have a set of blueprints, and then on the back of the job card, they are signing off individual things. There's no pictures involved, there's no, there could be a note, but it is just signatures on a job card, and then you get the final signature sign off, and that's usually when the fences are reviewed, so it's just a signature. So in this case where we have a plot plan that shows legally where the fence is supposed to be located at, the inspector should note that the fence is in that location, and then if the job card gets signed off, that is what the inspector is doing. They're
Based on-
signing off that you followed all the
Based on
code,
their
right?
observation, yes.
If the fence moved later that night, or it moved 2 days later, we most likely would never know.
That's what I'm assuming.
If it's hard to, there's so many scenarios that could go into play here. So it could have been moved, right? We don't have eyes on the ground staring at every house, taking a picture every day. It is really hard to tell. But when the plot plan legally shows where the fence is supposed to go, that is where the fence is supposed to go. Where the plot plan shows where your driveway is, that is where your driveway is supposed to go. And that's what the inspectors are checking. But
But
there's no
whereas-
picture at the end.
Assuming the inspector at the time, the fence was on the right place and they signed off according to the code that everything is okay. Now, like you said, the same night, somebody could have moved it.
Yeah.
But based on the inspector follows the code and sign off on it. So that's what I'm coming from, saying that based on that time, the fence was on the right place.
So my question for the two commissioners that are asking about the sight line. Say it wasn't. At that point, are we saying it's okay for the fence to be moved to the existing place now?
To where it is.
Yes.
That
Okay.
would change it for me.
Okay.
Yeah. That would make me lean more towards, yeah, because it wasn't. It would actually also validate the applicant's,
Moving it to where the 4.5.
right, well,
but
That was the
how do we
original.
know the fence was placed at 4.5 though?
Yeah, so
Right.
if the fence was placed at 4.5 and he decided to make the modifications at the 4.5, I
No,
don't,
right,
I-
but
I
there's
think
no-
the discussion would be easier at that
right,
point.
right,
Yeah,
very
but-
much.
But the fence has been extended all the way to the back of the walk, which wasn't the sight line, correct?
Right, but
So,
the thing is, there's no direct evidence, there's no direct clear evidence that the fence was installed at 4.5 feet. It was not provided by the applicant.
So based on the plot, where it was supposed to be built?
It was supposed to be built as
Right
is,
there.
right abutted,
Right.
right where the green arrow is showing, that
The same-
fence.
Is the same behind it, the same house
It
behind it?
it should be abutted to the fence
Exactly
behind it.
aligned by the fence that the house
Correct.
behind it, right?
That was the claim made, that the original fence was along the existing fence of the neighbor, the back neighbor,
so
which is within the PUD.
So in Exhibit C, it should have butted the fence where it shows the jog out.
Correct. Or, exhibit, you're referring to the plot plan, right?
No,
No.
Exhibit C.
Let me see.
Right there.
Yeah, so the one on the
Yeah.
left.
So it should have followed that same path, but it should have abutted to the corner house. So there would have been no side yard fence.
No side yard.
If it was built per plot plan. But there's no clear evidence that it was built at the 4.5 foot claim mark.
So his yard would have been less than his neighbor, his side yard.
Correct.
I'm looking at Exhibit A,
Yeah, so if you follow the sight line.
original
into-
fence line. It
Mhm.
claims, and that would still, it's not a big side yard, but it's, you could kind of see the concrete too, where
Mhm.
the addition.
But that's not the same as their plan.
Yeah, that's
Right.
that's kind of like, they wouldn't start up right off the end of the other property,
Right.
right? Because they would,
And if you take a look at Exhibit A, you could kind of see the difference where the new concrete
yeah.
and the old concrete. So it looks like it appears to me, based on off of the differences in concrete, the fence was installed per plot plan at one point, based on the concrete coverages there.
The extension.
So maybe I'm misunderstanding where it's supposed to go. That's kind of what I'm saying too. But the fact that I can see the sidewalk at the corner of the house shows that the fence wasn't right up against the house. There was still a little bit of walkway between the side yard and the backyard. And in the
Well, the
plot plan, it's clearly like hitting the corner of the house.
Mm-hmm.
no, you could kind of see it. Amber, can you turn to the plot plan?
Actually, he's saying because it's a corner house, they have less.
You could,
You see here,
Yeah,
the green arrow?
yeah. So
I'm not seeing that depicted in the picture.
It's
Yeah,
where
it
you have
does.
up
I
at the
just saw it.
ceiling.
Okay, so right at the corner of the house, right by the 91,
Mm-hmm.
to the right, you could kind of see there's that little edge, and then it goes up and abuts to the rear neighbor.
Mm-hmm.
But the way that the plot plan was approved, there would have been no fence absolutely for the side yard.
so the fence would have been on that dotted line?
Correct.
Yep.
No, so the fence is the little X, is the line type with the little X. And so the dash line is actually the PUD. So
Okay.
that's why the plot plan was approved, because the fence is on the PUD, that's the maximum amount it could go out to. So that line right there is the PUD, and then above is the line type with the little X is the fence.
All right, and there would be no fence on the side?
Correct. It would just
Okay.
abut to the corner of the house.
Is what it should have looked like,
Yeah.
Based on the code, there would be no
Based
based on the code.
Based on the approved.
But
Yeah.
because he's the first-time homeowner, he says that's not what it was.
I think it'll be worth also getting the model homes, plot plan, just to see how that's depicted and see if the current fence aligns with the POE.
So the model homes, it wouldn't show like the surrounding. It would only show like the floor plan of the house. Does that make sense? So the
What-
floor
do they
plan.
have this version, something like along this line,
Site plans.
site plan, I mean?
No, so the model homes don't show the site plan. It only shows like the actual like.
How would the inspector know where the fence is supposed to be at during inspection?
Well, the plot plan. This is what they
So is
would go
that
off.
available for the model home behind this house?
Yes.
And then I'm asking if it would be possible to pull that and then make note if the fence is on that line as well, or if it's not.
Yes, that is available. We did, evaluate it when we were doing this, and so it did show a 10-foot public utility easement.
And Because I also wonder for more information if all the corner houses have this similar plan. That they all don't have a side yard. I'm curious about that too.
So we could pull the, sorry to interrupt, we could pull the map for this development, but in every development, there will be some parcels that for whatever reason do have, for lack of a better word, a funky lot line. And so they either have a weird situation where the gate has to be on the side that you would never want it on because there's an angle on one side, or in this case where he could potentially have a side yard fence, but what would be the point? You're just a little triangle. So we do have situations where there is an awkward fence line based on how they fit in some of the parcels. It just kind of is the way it is.
Okay. I know there's a motion, but
So the wood fence on the plot plan is actually indicated on the legend below. It's in green. It's enclosed in green, and that's what the arrow is pointing to. So it's that line type. As you could see, it abuts right to from the rear neighbor's fence up to the corner of the house.
So that's where the yard ended.
Correct.
Right.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, the side yard for the model house and behind doesn't look like 10 feet right now. So I don't know, it could have been moved also, right?
Hmm.
But it doesn't, like the bump out of the modified fence, that's not like, that doesn't seem like it's 10 feet. So maybe confirmation that the existing fence for the neighbor house is within the 10 feet POE would also be.
So if I'm aware, code enforcement has also begun on cracking down. Yeah.
That's concerning to me. I think like there's a couple concerns here. Is like, are all these houses potentially in violation without their fault? That's one concern, you know. I
Did
don't
that
know.
neighbor indicate that they did the modification or that they received it that
I
way?
have not had contact with the rear
Or
neighbor.
they've been notified?
Yes.
And so I think like, as a concern for, it's worth checking into, right, for sure. And then I think the other, and I know we're planning commission, not lifestyle, but I just wonder like, if, you know, people are doing these fences to have, you know, a better well-being in their home, isn't that what we want in our city, right? And just kind of thinking about putting that out there. Like, what are we talking about and what is the issue and how do we remedy this? But first, I think we definitely need more, I feel like we need more information. I know that I can't make a motion until this one's figured out, right?
I don't think there's a motion on the table.
Oh, there's not? Okay.
No.
Okay.
There,
Yeah, I thought there was.
oh, okay, my
Right?
apologies.
So
What was your
until we
mo-
figure this out,
We
right?
went with option number 3,
Oh.
but I think staff
No,
needed,
option number one.
oh,
You
you said
wanted
option
number
number
one.
1, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, so you could act on that motion, see what happens and go from there. Right.
Well, there wasn't a second though.
No.
Did you call for a second?
I haven't called. for a
Oh,
second.
well that,
So
yeah, I
on
guess
the-
that's what I meant. It's like,
Okay, so there's a motion on the floor for option number 1. Is there a second? So not hearing a second, do I withdraw the motion?
a
Or-
motion fails for lack of a second.
Okay. So is there a secondary motion?
So, question, because that motion is gone, then do we have to do another motion, or what happens?
If you don't do another motion, there's no action on this item. And
Right.
so the applicant is just in limbo. So I would recommend,
So he would still be in violation per the code, and whoever enforced it still has to seek whatever they're gonna seek, or?
I think he would, he's entitled to a decision on his appeal.
Yes.
So if the planning commission doesn't make a decision,
It's kind
it
of,
would, I would look into it some more, but my thought would be he would then appeal to the city council, because he can appeal whatever decision you make tonight to the city council.
Okay, thank
So-
you.
So I'd like a recommendation from this commission to at least move forward so that we have action. If we're gonna continue the item, I'd like questions for the staff so that we can make a decision on this the next time we see this. So I'll entertain a motion. It sounded like you wanted to
Yeah.
go with option number 3.
Yeah, I'll go back to my original. Yes, I want to make a motion to continue the item and request additional information or clarification. And I think
Yeah.
We-
Second.
we've offered a couple of questions already, and to go back and find out, right? Do we have to repeat what we,
Yes, please.
okay, you want to?
So the first one is getting the final sign-off from the inspector on the property, on the applicant's property and the property right behind it. And the second item would be to confirm if the rear neighbor indicated that they're the ones that moved the fence or not, or they received it that way. So I don't know if that's even something you could,
The,
the model house behind.
okay, you're wanting to know if they moved it or, okay.
Does anybody else have further clarification or questions?
Yeah, I want to know how many, because you said code enforcement already put some violations on others. How many others in that neighborhood?
Okay.
And at least, not to give too much work, but at least one more comparison of a corner lot in that neighborhood. Please.
And I have a suggestion for maybe updating the municipal code to allow the city to make exceptions up to 10 feet, not just less than 10 feet. Would that be something that can be
We-
done here, or?
Yeah, so I would leave it separate from this item,
Yeah.
but at the end of the meeting, there's an opportunity for the planning commissioner to make reports, and so at that time, we could get consensus from the commission to come back
Okay.
with that item. Ultimately, yeah, I would come to you first and then go to the city council with your recommendation.
So we do allow for exceptions, but the fence would need to match the PUE. So like I previously stated, if the PUE was, 6 feet wide, that fence could be pushed out.
That's
to-
kind of the adjustment that I'm speaking to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Any further questions or clarification that staff needs to get for the next report? No? Okay, so I'll call for a vote on on option number 3. There was a motion and a second. Let's do roll call vote.
Commissioner Maizuni,
Nay.
Commissioner Carla de Torres,
Yes.
Commissioner Damian Perez,
Yes.
Commissioner Ray Belong.
Yes.
Motion carries 3-1.
Thank you. And for point of clarification, is there an estimated time of when we would see this again?
I mean, would this have to be provided at next planning commission meeting or?
It's not required, but, I mean, I'll leave that to Eva, or I'll leave
okay.
it to the powers that be.
Okay,
doesn't have to be
it should
brought
be fairly quick.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
And that's just for the purpose, I don't want to leave you in limbo. And so, thank you, and I'm sorry you have to go through this, but, it's the process that we have to go through, so.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you a lot.
Okay, moving on to item 6.3, West Fairview Specific Plan Amendment, Site and Architectural Review, 2022-13, and Conditional Use Permit 2022-5 for Bright Future Recovery. May we have the staff report?
Hello, I'm very excited to finally bring this project to you, which has been in the works for quite a while. It's the Bright Future Recovery Sober Living Facility. The facility is located at 1000 Fairview Road. You can see it with the arrow on your screen. It is surrounded by the West of Fairview development. The subdivision to the south that you can see is KB. It is currently under construction, almost complete. And then to the north will be the next phase of West of Fairview. The phase numbers keep changing, but right now it's called Phase 3. And that is in for grading and improvement plan, so it will be under construction soon. Next slide. This project involves 3 different application types. There is a specific plan amendment to allow the construction of the 3 buildings that they wish to build, as well as their development standards. There's a site and architectural review, which is required for the new buildings, landscaping, fencing, and site improvements, and a conditional use permit for the sober living facility. For the specific plan amendment, as I mentioned, it's in the West Fairview area. A specific plan was adopted for all of West Fairview. At the time, this property, as well as 2 smaller other properties, were included within the plan area to ensure that if the sites were ever developed, that they would comply with the West of Fairview specific plan goals and policies, and to ensure that they fit in well with with the surrounding area. In this case, for this project, while West of Fairview really anticipated the development of mostly single-family homes, we do have a 100-unit affordable project as well as a park area, and we do have the cluster lots at the KB development. It never anticipated anything other than standard residential, so for this project, it needs a specific plan amendment to tailor that lot to what they need to use it for, and so staff has drafted a specific plan amendment that allows them to have buildings and the development standards and allows for future work if they needed to accommodate their needs. For the site layout, the site is an existing site. There is an existing house out there. If you have driven down West Fairview Road, if you blink, you will miss this property. There is the sound wall for KB, and there is a narrow entrance right now and a lot of landscaping, so you will have to really struggle to see the existing house, but there is one there. It's located at the rear of the property. There, as I mentioned, is the existing driveway off of West Fairview. What they are doing to the site is really revamping it. Right now it is just the house and the driveway, but they are adding parking. They are adding a new building closer to the street that will be their administration building, and that will be used for meetings and offices and therapy. They are also adding on the right side of the plan, in that kind of light orange color, they're adding a new guest house to provide additional beds. And then the existing house will continue to be used as a residential facility. Site improvements include landscaping, fencing, a new pool, a new basketball court, and some on-site amenities. Now, because of the grade of that property, the speed on Fairview, and the location of it, you most likely will never see any of the buildings, but just to give you an example of what they look like, this is the front of the administration building. That's the building located closest to Fairview Road. It is 1 story. It has a variety of materials. They have massing breaks and articulation throughout. Unfortunately, again, you're probably not going to see most of it. You'll see the roof. This is the new residential building, which will be used only to house people. And again, interior to the site. You probably will see a little bit of it above the fence line at the property line, interior to West of Fairview. The project also includes a conditional use permit. There is a sober living facility, as I currently mentioned, that operates on site. They wish to expand the number of people to 22. And the site is over 1 acre in size, and with the new buildings, there's more than adequate space to accommodate them. It's important to note that the state of California has determined that this type of facility is a residential use, so it's not a commercial use, so it is allowed in residential zoning districts. The residents will be living on site, and they will not have cars. They will live in the house in the new guest house, and services are provided on site. A traffic analysis was prepared, and it identified several enhancements to the site that were recommended due to the number of residents, even though they didn't have cars, but to accommodate the employees. And within that analysis, as I mentioned, it did include some enhancements, and those are already incorporated into the project plans. Again, if someone were to subdivide this site, there could be 6 residential dwellings on it. So this is actually a little bit smaller than what you would see if 6 homes were built on the site. So it is compatible with what was ever anticipated in the specific plan. This project was reviewed under the California Environmental Quality Act, and because this is within a specific plan area, there was an EIR. There is the 1998 West of Fairview Specific Plan EIR, and then the 2007 Supplemental EIR. Because this was included in the specific plan area, it was included in the project that was anticipated at that time. The project did include a minor modification to what was discussed in the EIR. The EIR mentioned that the driveway needed to be moved from Fairview to interior to west of Fairview, so it should have lined up with maybe fuchsia. If the site was ever constructed, the applicant requested that it stay on Fairview where it is now to allow for the plan that they had accommodated. But because it was studied in the EIR, we needed to double check to make sure that it was safe. So as I mentioned, that traffic analysis was prepared. They incorporated the recommended modifications to ensure safety of entering and exiting the site. And then again, because there was a minor modification and we had to study this project, staff prepared what is called an addendum to the EIR, which is allowed when there are no new impacts or environmental impacts associated with the project, but one needed to be prepared for clarity. So that was done, and that is included in your packet. No, I already said the EIR addendum, so just skip it over. So, in summary, this site is 1 acre in size, and it is physically suitable for this project. The proposed use of the site is a sober living facility, and it will provide support and services that can be used by the residents of the city and provide a needed service. Although not visible from Fairview Road, the new buildings are attractively designed. They include a variety of colors and materials. They're well articulated. They have roof and massing breaks, and they'll be an attractive addition to the city. An EIR addendum was prepared, and it determined that the project would not result in any environmental impacts. And so, in conclusion, you do have 4 options. This project is a little different because it includes a specific plan amendment, which is a council action. The Planning Commission would be making a recommendation to the City Council tonight because neither the conditional use permit nor the SNA could be approved without the approval of the specific plan amendment. So option number 1 is recommending City Council approval of the CEQA addendum, the specific plan amendment, the site and architectural review, and the conditional use permit. And then you also have option number 2, which would allow you to make any changes or changes to the conditions of approval. You could deny the recommendation, it will still go to council, or you could continue the hearing if you had some more questions for staff. Staff is recommending option number 1.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from the commission? No?
I'm curious, you said in the beginning, this has taken a long time. Can
Yes.
you tell me a little bit about
Not every project, it moves fast, and the applicant is here, she can tell you more. We had to do CEQA work, we had to do the traffic analysis, we've had many plan submittals, so it has taken us quite a while to get here. And then the last meeting was canceled.
Oh, okay. Is that because of the Planning Commission asking
No,
for?
no.
Okay.
It's just been a while.
Okay, and then I have another I think it's important to have these services. I'm just curious, is this a private fee facility, or is it a Medi-Cal paid facility? Is it?
So,
what-
for the state of California, any facility, whether it is through state-funded, grant monies, private insurance, et cetera, they are all considered the same thing. We have very little discretion in them.
I'm just curious, like, who can we, refer, or who can we say, you can go to this facility because there's services?
Oh, well.
Or is it like you have to pay for it? That's what I'm curious about.
For this particular
Yeah.
one, Sheree can answer that question. She's the applicant.
Okay, then I'll ask them, okay.
You can come down here. You have to come down here and state your name.
And actually, it would be better if she speaks after the public hearing is open.
Sorry, close the public
Yeah.
hearing.
Sooner.
Or open, sorry.
Do you have any questions for staff?
Was the entrance, the original study wanted it to be off like Fuchsia, one of the roads from the internal development, but now it stayed on Fairview. Was that because of the neighboring development, or was it just the preference of the applicant?
So West of Fairview is a very long project. It has been going on since 1993. So within that EIR, and remember, times do change, but EIRs don't change. They do live on forever. So when they did the EIR for the West of Fairview specific plan, that EIR mentions with not too much information that they wanted the driveway from this property angled to go into the site. There was no plan that specifically showed how it was supposed to occur. It was anticipated that we would figure it out at that time. Since, however, the construction has started, there's a sound wall around the property. So it blocks access. There is a grade change. Moving the driveway to internal would be very difficult and very costly. The driveway exists on Fairview now. It is currently used now. There's a sober living facility operating there. But because the EIR had a comment within it that said the driveway should be moved inside, I can't just say, yeah, no problem. I have to follow CEQA, and CEQA tells me I have to study it. And then just for the safety purposes of, I can't just say, sounds good to me. I have to have an expert say, yes, Erica, it sounds good, or no, what a terrible idea. Because it could come back and say, what a terrible idea. And then the applicant would have had to really modify their plans a lot. So it sounds like it just was kind of like I don't know, in this case, it was almost like a check the box type of situation. In some situations, it's not that case. But for Cherie and this project, it didn't make sense to actually force them to move it internal because the cost expenditure to do so would have been quite significant. And the traffic analysis backed us up on that. But then the addendum has to keep the record of why we made that change.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. Thank you. We will open public hearing at 7:38. Staff, do we have any public comments?
We don't have any speaker cards, but the applicant is in the audience if you would like to have them come speak with you or answer any questions.
Hi, I'm Sheree Ashley. I'm the founder and owner of Bright Future Recovery.
Well, thank you for doing that work. I'm a social worker, so I know the importance of that. And my question was more of, is this available to everyone in our community, or is it a privately paid? How do people access it?
Yeah, so we've been open for 10 years, and I'm pleased to say that we now take local San Benito County Medi-Cal for the past year.
Good.
So we can take Medi-Cal locally.
Excellent, thank you. And it's good to hear that you've been operating already. And so this, tell us a little bit about what this potential approval could mean to your facility.
So we currently have 12 clients at a time, and it's, as Erica was saying, it's just ran out of the house right now, so it's a little bit tight. And we do have an entire acre, so it'll be really nice just to kind of space it out and have individual therapy rooms, a group room. Right now, it's just kind of all in one place, or the living room. And then it would just be additional beds that we can add there. The nice thing is it is residential, so they don't drive, and it would just really improve. I mean, the plans are beautiful, so it really just gives them a really comfortable environment while they're going through the process.
So how many more, is it patients that can you, how many more patients will be able to use the facility if this is granted?
It would be adding an additional 10.
10, okay.
And staff, is it gonna increase too, or?
Yeah, it will increase.
So at capacity, how much staff and residents do you expect?
Well, capacity of clients would be 12, and staff, it would just really vary. We'd be adding a couple more night shift techs as well, a couple more counselors. So, yeah, I don't have that exact number, but we would
It
be,
varies through the day, right?
yeah, depending on how many clients we have at a time.
And this is a voluntary inpatient program?
It is.
Do you serve like court mandated patients as well?
We do occasionally have clients that come in that may be having legal issues, and that's something that our team specializes in, is working closely with their probation officer or parole to ensure that they're getting the care that they need. We are dealing with substance abuse, so we factor that in when they're having a hard day, and we have amazing professionals on site that are able to work with them through that. So just depending on what their legal situation is, we're able to accommodate.
How many new positions would be created based on this?
By increasing 10, we'd probably be increasing by about 6 to 8 staff.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Any further questions for the applicant? Thank you.
Thank you.
I will now close public hearing at 7:42. This is our time to deliberate, unless somebody would like to entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion unless you all want to still. Okay. I'd like to make a motion. We adopt the resolution recommending the city council approval of a CEQA addendum, specific plan amendment, site and architectural review, and conditional use permit.
We have a motion on the floor.
I second that.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries 4-0. Thank you.
Thank you for doing that work.
Everglen Phase 2.
Item 6.5. Are we still on 4? Sorry, 6.4.
Oh, next slide. Wait a minute, what? Yeah, are we ready? No. You have to announce me, sorry. I messed you up. Wait, I don't know. Can I start? Okay, I'm confused. Hello. Did I do that? Okay, sorry. Everglen Phase 2 is a little bit new for us. It's a tentative map and plan development. I'll go over that in a second. Everglen Phase 2 is, if you follow that blue arrow to that kind of shaded in area, it is within the Chapel Road Master Plan area. There is an existing house there on a very large piece of property. If you look to the right of that area, you see that kind of light tan area. That's KB at Everglen. It is currently under construction. There are model homes and a few homes up now, but they are currently in construction. Oh, no. Phase 2 is intended to now be included within Everglen Phase 1. The property has now decided to subdivide. And so they are planning to subdivide the existing lot into 7 lots. So there will be 6 new houses, and they will be incorporated into the KB development. So with this project, there is a plan development, and I believe this is our first plan development since the rules changed. And so with the plan development now, there are things that need to be done. It now requires a rezone, so action by the council again, and it requires a public benefit. So for this particular plan development, the existing property is zoned single-family residential performance overlay. And this overlay allows for small lot developments, but keeps the standard single-family residential development standards. So because the PZ overlay allows lots to be as small as 2,500 square feet, most developments cannot meet the traditional setbacks, and so they request a plan development. Everglen did the same thing. They have reduced setbacks. The good news for Everglen Phase 2 is that they are within the Chapel Road Master Plan, which included a variety of public benefits for the entire master plan area, such as a linear park, and then within Everglen Phase 1 and Phase 2, there is a small park. So they do have a public benefit. So just to show you the location within Phase 1, you can see the darker lined homes, and then the existing roadways which are constructed, and then the Everglen homes kind of in a lighter line type around them. So they will fit in with the development, and they will have the same design as those homes. Their proposed development standards are similar to Everglen Phase 1. There is one exception. So again, the lots are smaller, which is allowed under the performance overlay. They have the same lot coverage as standard single family, but they are requesting a 5-foot side yard setback, which we typically see in a planned development. They are requesting a 15-foot setback to the house and a 20-foot setback to the garage. So the house would be a little bit closer to the street than would otherwise happen. But for this property, again, I'll show you again, but there is the kind of, to fit it in, some of the lot lines are a little funky. I can't think of a better word. They do have some reduced setbacks, so it's been set up so that they can have the corner where it is, and then the setback gets larger till it meets the standard setback. And then for air conditioners, they're, again, because the 5-foot setback, they're requesting the 5-foot setback. And then the density is 8 dwelling units per acre, which falls within the R1's standards, which is 1 to 8 dwelling units per acre. So this is their proposed tentative map, and as you can see, the existing house is in a lighter line type with access to North Chapel Road. There are 2 houses that will have access to North Chapel Road. The park is right to the north of them, and then the remaining 4 units will be accessed off of Summer Morning, which is internal to Everglen. Again, you can see there's 2 in that kind of, if you took them both together, they're kind of a square, but those 2 properties have those, you can see it where the side edge of the rear is very close to the property line and then significantly expands. And again, it's to fit them in. It's just due to the irregular lot shape. With regards to CEQA, this project was included within the Chapel Road Master Plan, which means they are in development of that parcel as well as the rest of Chapel Road, was reviewed in the 2019 Chapel Road Master Plan EIR. The project is consistent with that EIR, and all mitigation measures that are included with that in that EIR will apply to this project, so they will need to comply with them. Because it's within that EIR and there's no additional impacts or changes, no further review is required. So in conclusion, the proposed planned development is located on a small infill site. It will be within the Everglen development, part of the larger Chapel Road Master Plan area. The proposed development standards are appropriate for the lots in which it is located, and it is consistent with Everglen Phase 1. The proposed design of the homes is also consistent with the design of homes in Phase 1, and therefore it will seamlessly integrate into the overall Everglen development once it is complete. Again, because this project requires action by the council, which is the plan development, which is new. The tentative map relies on the plan development, so both require council action together. So the planning commission will be making a recommendation once again. And so your options for tonight are to recommend approval of the tentative map and plan development rezone. You could make some changes to the conditions of approval if you chose to do so. You could deny the project, or you can continue if you'd like some more information or clarification. And staff is once again recommending option 1.
Thank you again for your report. Do we have any questions from the commission?
One question, are these houses in size similar to houses, other houses from phase 1?
Yes, it's exactly the same plan from phase 1, now in phase 2.
And how big are these houses?
They vary in size. It's hard because they vary in size, and some within Everglen have an attached ADU, but none of these will. But I believe they're, I'm trying to think because I just looked at them not that long ago. I believe they're about 2,300 to 2,800 square feet.
Oh, they're a good sized house.
Yeah.
So they're market rate homes, right?
They are market rate, but there are ADUs on some of the lot which do tend to rent at a more affordable rate.
And those ADUs, do they count towards meeting the city's requirements for below market rate homes?
For market rate homes?
Dwellings?
Yeah, you can include ADUs within your reportings to the state at the end of the year.
I see.
I don't know
But
what
none of these would
EDUs
have
are.
it, right?
Additional dwelling unit.
Accessory dwelling unit.
Accessory.
But you mentioned none of these would have that floor plan.
These will not, no. So all the accessory dwelling units are in phase 1. These lots are too small. They wouldn't be able to accommodate them. They're not too small due to the configuration of the lots and where they're trying to put them on. It would be almost impossible to put the ADUs how they have them in the rest of Everglades.
And currently, when you go down Chapel Road, there's no sidewalks that butt that property.
So now that they are in for a project, they will have to do full frontage improvements on Chapel Road. So
So-
sidewalk, curb and gutter.
Why? Oh, go ahead.
The 20-foot setback, is that to a sidewalk or sidewalk? and
It's
the
to your
other side?
it's to your property line. So setbacks. It's important to note that in any project, and this is the case for every city, your property line is in different locations. So some cities might have, or projects might have, a sidewalk outside of your property line, and it is a responsibility of the city to take care of the sidewalk. Some will have it inside of your property line, so you are required to maintain your own sidewalk. So it is always measured to the property line, and the plot plans show where the property lines are. Those are not finalized until final map.
Does it look like the sidewalk is within the property line in the maps?
Oh, I don't. Can you go back, Amber? And I'll try to zoom in and see. I don't know if the sidewalks are shown. Oh,
That dotted line towards the street kind of makes me.
that dotted line is an easement. So the property line is most likely at the back of sidewalk. But again, it's not final until final map.
Why wasn't this part of the first phase 1?
So it was discussed at the time, and for whatever reason, maybe the property owner wasn't ready to sell.
Oh,
I'm sure that the rest of Everglen going under construction maybe sparked the desire to, would be my guess, but unfortunately the applicant couldn't make it tonight. But I know it was discussed. At one point it was included, and then the property owner didn't want to do it at that time, so it was removed.
because
And
oh, good.
Sorry.
I'm just curious. I'm just gonna throw out an option. If how many houses are in that development? First of all,
In Everglen. Do you have a staff report? I think it's. Amber's gonna look for me. I don't have it printed out. I was
Approximately.
trying to save it for you.
just approximately.
I think it's 92, but Amber could tell me. I could be completely wrong.
Okay, 92. So just I have a point to why I'm asking. It's a significant number. And how many parks? Two?
For Chapel Road Master Plan, there is the park at Everglen.
Mm-hmm.
There is the green space at the highway, and so, can you go back to the first slide for me, Amber? Or not, yeah, the first slide where it shows the aerial,
I think it follows 25
Yeah.
all the way to the.
the aerial. So you see how 25 swings up?
Mm-hmm.
So Everglen has the park, and then you can kind of see the property to the north is like a dark gray, and then the property above that is brown.
Mm-hmm.
So swinging along 25 for those two properties down to Everglen is park space.
Mm-hmm. One park space?
It's one continuous park area.
Okay.
So all of this, so the need for parks, the location of the parks, and the public amenities was established by the city council.
Right.
And that is in effect as part of the Chapel Road Master Plan.
So I'm just gonna say this, I don't think we need more houses, first of all. I know this was a development already in the works, but I would like the developer to consider the need for not just park space, but for indoor recreation space. When you have 90-something homes, and weather how it is, outdoor is great, green space is great, but can we have a consideration for an indoor recreation center at this potential place?
So, for Chapel Road, the park and recreation land has been designated. So for the rest of the projects,
They won't consider it.
it has already been determined by the council where it needs to be. There is no requirement for single-family residential for indoor park space. Park requirements for residential developments are handed down to us by the state, and we follow them. So they are within our code. There is the requirement to either pay an impact fee or build parks, and that's the Quimby Act, so we are required to follow it. But again, there is no requirement for single-family residential to build an indoor facility.
And I understand that, and I'm here representing our community, and I know that a need our community has is an indoor recreation space. And so if there was any way to, ask for that for especially 90-something homes, and I'm just thinking, like, it feels like, okay, they got that extra piece of land, let's build more houses. Like, can we be more thoughtful about the extra piece of land and what we need, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, so certainly for future developments, it's something we can consider. The hard one with this is
Already said.
Everglen's already been
Right.
approved.
That-
It's under
and that's why
construction.
I had to
So
put
we're
it out.
looking at a
Right.
6-lot subdivision in essence.
Doesn't hurt to ask.
Yeah, of course, as different projects come along, we can have that discussion.
And I would just add that with development impact fees, the city council and the city establish what those fees will be used for, and there is a parks fee. I think it's Parks and Recreation.
Mhm.
So at a certain point, the city council approves a parks master plan, and that plan may have indoor recreation space on it that development impact fees are used to pay for.
Okay.
So this is all, established before a developer
Okay,
proposes a development.
thank you.
I had a question regarding lot 7. It's gonna be the remaining existing house. Are they gonna do anything to the property to tie it in?
So
With the rest
there's,
of the
so
development.
engineering has a condition in there requiring full frontage improvements on Chapel Road, which then also helps because it'll tie everything in. Where hopefully, eventually, we have the sidewalk that runs along the whole road.
Do you know, was there consideration of a school in this development? I thought I heard talk at one point years ago, because I was on the school board and they talked about potential. there's
No, it
no-
wasn't. The Chapel Road Master Plan is started a fairly long time ago. So it was reviewed several times by council before it was ultimately adopted in its present form, but in no form did it ever have a school in it.
Okay. And so to the question of, because it is near 25,
Mm-hmm.
just, thinking of safety, because we all drive,
Mhm.
that's, it's a fast moving highway.
Mm-hmm.
What are the safety considerations there?
So on Highway 25, And the project on that brown area actually was approved. They might be close to expiring though, but there was a project approved for it. So part of the purpose of an EIR, an environmental impact report, is to review many aspects, one of which is noise, the other which is safety. So for 25, there's berming and other enhancements, as well as measures for safety to make sure that there's sound attenuation to those homes and that there is safety so someone doesn't decide to go darting across. So it was incorporated into the EIR, and then I know we haven't had that gray area. There's been no project yet. We've had interest, but no one's actually applied. But for the gray area, it was significantly reviewed as part of the review process, and I know there were specific conditions of approval related to it, and was incorporated into the design as well to make sure that it met the requirements of the EIR.
I think when you pass by the project now, it's elevated. And I believe I was on the commission when they approved the brown area, the project that was supposed to go there.
Yeah, you
And
were.
they said that there was gonna be some, like you said, a berm there. That's,
Good.
cause that was one of the concerns from the commission.
Is there any way to try to get homes that are maybe just more affordable to, like, below market rate? Because these are small lots, and they're gonna squeeze in a 2,300 square foot home, and they have plenty of floor plans to pick from. Is there any way to put in, like, you know, recommendations on, like, these are really suitable for more affordable homes?
So we do have an inclusionary ordinance that does require a certain percentage of homes, and all new developments now, Everglen was approved before it took effect, and so was the brown colored one. So they weren't required to comply with the affordable component, but, and again, this one is too small, but there is an affordable component of 20% affordability for all new residential developments in the city, and that's our inclusionary ordinance.
Did you
So-
say they were not required?
This project is too small. There's not, so Everglen Phase 2 is not required to comply because they don't meet the number of units. I think it's 10 to require compliance. But Everglen Phase 1 was approved before the inclusionary ordinance took effect. Everglen Phase 1 was approved in 2022.
But to piggyback on his question, even though it's not required, could we ask as being as one of our recommendations for approval?
You could ask.
Okay.
I actually think that happened at a meeting not too long ago where the commission, and maybe Chair Belong remembers, but the commission asked the applicant to consider adding additional affordable homes. But, I mean, essentially, a developer's only required to do what's
Right.
in the code.
Right.
So,
I mean, it doesn't hurt to ask.
And I think the applicant said they'd consider it.
Oh, good. That's good.
Any further questions for staff? No? Hearing none, we'll move on to public hearing at 8:03 PM. Staff, do we have any public comments?
We have no speaker cards and no comments online. And then just to answer the question of how many units had been proposed in Everglen 1, the tentative map that I was able to find shows 82 units and an existing residential.
Thank you.
Thank you, and we'll close public hearing at 8:04 PM. Well, is there a motion to approve this item, or do we want to have discussion?
No question.
No questions? Entertain a motion?
Motion to move on, number 1. Adopt resolution recommending city council approval of a planned development rezone and tentative map.
We have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Well, okay, procedurally, I wanted to add the piece we just talked about.
That would be 2 with
Yeah.
recommendation, right?
Yeah. Well, I did ask. I was,
Draw a line.
okay, thank you.
So we have a withdrawal of the motion.
Thank you.
I'll entertain a secondary motion.
I'd like to make a motion that we adopt the resolutions recommending approval of the plan redevelopment zone with conditions modified, and the conditions being that we ask for increase.
Well,
of-
you wouldn't modify the conditions because the conditions tell the applicant what they have to do.
Okay,
And so if, really a recommendation would be more just
The
a
one-
request that staff talk to them. I mean, there's really no,
okay,
it's not binding.
okay. So is it one or two?
I think it's one.
It's one and
I'll-
then just
and
ask,
I'll
okay.
Tell
The
the, I'll tell the
caveat.
applicant your request.
Okay,
And just for point of clarification, this is us recommending to the city council for approval, correct?
You're recommending to the city council
Yes.
on this one as well.
okay. And then, I'm just, can I ask something else? If it was, if we denied the proposed project, what would happen?
It still goes to the city
City
council.
Either
So
way.
it goes with a recommendation of a denial.
Okay,
So they can actually ultimately reject our recommendation.
They can reject your recommendation of approval and they can reject your recommendation of denial. Yeah.
got it, okay. Okay, so then I rescind my, because it's not the right one.
All
you
right,
wanted-
so.
Back to
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm doing motion for number one, adopt resolution recommending city council approval of a planned development rezone.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 But
Yes.
I want them to ask if we can have more affordable.
I will talk to him
Okay.
tomorrow.
So just another point of clarification, based off of the ordinance, that would just require them to have one house affordable out of that 6?
They don't
They
meet
don't
the
have to
requirement.
at
They
all.
don't have the total number. So
Got it.
the way it's crafted is that so smaller type,
So it'd be at the discretion of the developer.
yeah.
It seems even though it's the same builder, it's a different project.
Yeah, it's an entirely different project.
Got it.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so the motion passed.
Okay.
Oh, so you were an aye vote. Yep. Okay, so the motion passed 4-0. Moving on to item 6.5. May we have a staff report?
Please don't be bored of me. Tonight, we have a zoning ordinance amendment. We haven't had one in quite a while, except for inclusionary. This one is related to specialized schools. So to give you a bit of background, the city does review the zoning ordinance from time to time and will come with requests for minor modifications. The city is undergoing an overhaul of the zoning ordinance that Chairman Belong was on when we first started. We've since paused because of the general plan, the inclusionary ordinance, and a few other things. We will be bringing that back again, hopefully starting soon. But in the meantime, the city recently received a request to operate a specialized training school in the M1. And upon reviewing that request, we found that the municipal code does not allow those types of schools. And so after thinking about it, in the industrial zoning district, you typically do find specialized training schools for things such as how to repair autos or how to assemble components or how do you install something as part of a construction job. And those types of schools typically do locate within an industrial zoning district because they need higher ceilings or they need the large open floor plan space to conduct their training. So after looking through that, staff determined that yes, that is a use that actually should be hopefully within the light industrial zoning district and would be beneficial and provide more educational and training opportunities for residents. So in order to do so, we need to add a new category to the light industrial zoning district to their table of permitted uses. And so what staff is proposing to include is schools, vocational, and trade. We are recommending that require a conditional use permit. And the reason being so is that sometimes these schools like to locate things on the outside, which can be unsightly. parking, especially in Hollister in the industrial zoning district, does tend to be a problem, and they will need to have adequate parking, and so we can check those things as part of the conditional use permit. And in some cases, if they needed to do anything outside or anything else that could be annoying to their neighbors, we want to check it at that time and maybe limit the use or hours of operation or where they could do it. So because schools, vocational and trade is a new use type, we had to add a new definition to the definition section of the code. And so basically what we are encouraging or allowing in the light industrial would be specialized training related to licensing, certificates that you might need, really for fields related to construction, repairs, woodworking, furniture making, cabinet making, or specific types of manufacturing. So if it was approved, those types of schools would be allowed to go in. I'm not going to read this because it's so long, but the existing definition was quite lengthy, and so is the new one, but we had to break apart the two different types of schools to really make it clear what the difference is between the two, and then they'll be allowed at various sections. Basically, specialized education is supposed to mean things like having a seminar or teaching a finance class or a computer class. Those are schools where you typically have more students in a classroom sitting in smaller spaces. They have different parking demand. They have different needs. So again, with that, we had to amend the commercial land use table to clear up everything, because unfortunately there was some errors and there was some not misleading, but there was some conflicting requirements. So we're trying to clean it up. So now we have all these different types of schools allowed within the commercial. But again, vocational and trade, that should be in the industrial. They're larger scale. They could have potential impacts on neighbors, so they wouldn't be allowed in the commercial zoning district. Whereas, colleges and universities or primary school or secondary school would be allowed. Again, just to clean it all up, we had to amend both the primary definition and the secondary definition to really clarify what those two different schools are. So staff has proposed an amendment to those definitions. And CEQA is not required for this project because while we are amending the zoning ordinance, there is no direct physical change to land, and any project that ever comes in is required for their own environmental impacts to the city and to the surrounding area. The proposed amendments to the zoning ordinance will allow vocational and trade schools in the light industrial zoning district, which will provide a place for schools of this type to operate where they are currently not allowed to operate. And staff feels that this will allow for further job training and opportunities for residents. And again, because this is a zoning ordinance amendment, it does require a recommendation by you to council. Council will make the ultimate or the final decision. And you have your standard 4 options. Number 1 would be to recommend approval of the amendments. Number 2 would be if you wanted to amend any of them. Number 3 is if you wanted to deny them, but it will still go to council. And number 4 would be if you have any additional information that you need. And staff is recommending option 1.
Thank you again. Do we have any questions for staff?
I do. Is there any demand for this use right now? Any applicants who want to operate there?
So right now we did have one request, and when they came in with the request, that's when we realized it wasn't allowed. Mm-hmm. So there is the potential for one. They haven't, applied for a permit or come in with direct plans, but they have indicated that they would like to have a facility in the city.
I see. And is this well, it could be like a nursing program, like.
No, so that's different. So in the definitions, it distinctly separates those out. So in the light industrial, you don't want a commercial type uses. So a nursing program would be more of a commercial or professional office type use. Whereas in the light industrial, there are there could be chemicals, there's noise, it's a different type of environment. So for the light industrial and for the schools that we're talking about, they are compatible because you don't want someone learning how to manufacture cabinetry next to a retail store. It's very loud and there's dust and it can be quite obnoxious to the surrounding area and it will impact retail uses. But in the industrial area where you have larger buildings, you're more separated out, they need space. That is where a use like that would want to go to teach those types of skills. And unfortunately, right now in the city, the code just doesn't allow it, period.
I see the sixth graders included in both categories, primary and secondary.
Mm-hmm.
Is that because of the recent changes or just to?
That's because it does include private schools, and some private schools will go up to 6 in the private, like elementary school up to 6, but then, in some it goes higher. So it allows for that flexibility that they could, if there was a private elementary school and they wanted to go through 6th grade, that they could do so.
One more. Does any of the programs that could potentially be offered there at schools conflict with the CTE building at the high school? Because it's career technical education. So I'm wondering, there's some overlap in some of the careers that you mentioned.
It would be, I don't have a project in front of me, so I don't know now. And this is most likely for adults learning a career path or training. And then if ever someone came in that wanted to have or they wanted to allow the school to have students there as well, that could be included as part of their conditional use permit. But that would be up to them and the school at that time.
I see.
Commissioner Mizzou, any questions?
No.
No. I just had a question. So if this is gonna be a vocational school, is there anything that we can do to assure that it's gonna be like a bona fide program? Like it's gonna be recognized as a state recognized program, accredited program? Like there's private programs out there that have no oversight.
I would think that's outside of the planning commission's purview and would be more related to city, like business license or state licensing. But I'm not familiar with what type of licensing technical schools go through, but it's outside of, I would say, the planning commission's purview. Would you agree with that?
I would agree. The hard thing with limiting it is I could be an artisan chair maker. And are you saying I can't teach people how to be artisan chair makers?
If you're approved through the state or.
But you
accredited
wouldn't
through
be.
the state.
It's a weird area, but I would say in the terms of it's just a use, not requiring a license type situation, allows more flexibility.
Is your concern like the tuition cost to?
Well, I mean, if we're setting up a facility for our residents and they go to this school, but then it has no merit, it's kind of, I don't see that it being beneficial to the community, but.
Again, all uses will require a conditional use permit. It's a lot of speculation until we actually even
Get
have someone come in. And if we found a problem and the law said we could require it, I just have never seen that as a requirement. I'm like racking my brain trying to think of all the definitions for schools I've seen. And I've never seen anyone have that requirement. Because the same would be, we have the personal schools and there's finance schools and all sorts of things, and we don't require them to be licensed.
But those type of schools would be allowed in commercial zoning areas, correct?
Yeah.
So as far as a vocational school, we're looking more towards trades or automotive or something of that nature.
You can still teach educational schools in the commercial. So nursing, computers, bookkeeping.
But trades and automotive or auto body, that would have to be taught in a industrial.
Yes, it's not appropriate in the commercial whatsoever. Again, you're talking about there are impacts associated with those types of businesses, and it is inappropriate to have it in a shopping center or commercial area where they could really impact the surrounding neighbors. You would want them in a larger building on a larger site, removed from most of the public.
Okay. Now, my concern, to answer your question, is if I wanted to open Steve's HVAC certification, and I have no clue on how to teach HVAC, but people go through my program and they pass, and I give them a certificate. I mean, it's not really a benefit. Whereas if it was a state-approved apprenticeship program teaching it, you know, that was my concern, but I guess we have no privy over that, so.
This came about through an applicant's interest in operating here.
Eh.
Are there examples in other cities' code that is similar to what we're going to update to?
Yes, most cities do allow schools in their light industrial zoning district, and they allow, again, schools that you wouldn't want in other areas of the city. So, and most require a conditional use permit, again, because you want to ensure there's no impacts on the surrounding neighborhood. Have I ever seen cities with schools? Yes, I've seen woodworking where they teach large-scale woodworking like cabinetry or larger, to teach someone how to be an artisan, so larger scale like table and chairs and real furniture making. So they have that skill. I've seen those. In a city I haven't worked for, I haven't seen HVAC or automotive repair schools, but I do know they exist. I have seen them myself, so they are out there.
Any further questions for staff? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to public hearing at 8:21. Staff, do we have any public comments?
We have no speaker cards and I see no hands raised online.
Okay, we'll close it at 8:21. Is there a motion on the floor?
Want to make a motion to adopt a resolution recommending city council approval of a zoning ordinance amendment to chapter 1710 industrial manufacturing zoning to allow specialized school in the M1 zoning.
And there's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries 4-0. We will move on to item number 7.1. Determine the proposed vacation disposal of Weller Alley. May we have a staff report?
Chair Belong, this item was prepared by the city attorney's office, and I have my colleague Sarah Salvini online who's going to present the item. She did let me know by text message that she's having a little bit of trouble hearing the commissioners, so if you do have a comment or question for her, if you could just speak straight into the microphone. Thank you.
Good evening, Commission. Should I share my screen to share the presentation, or do you all?
Yes, if you can, that'd be great.
I should share?
Yes, please, sorry.
Okay.
And let us know if you have any trouble, Sarah.
All right. Are you all able to see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. All right. I apologize, one moment. Here we go. All right, this item concerns an approximate 10-foot by 80-foot strip of land owned by the city of Hollister. That's part of what was historically designated Weller Alley. The issue before the commission tonight is whether the vacation or the abandonment of the property as a street, or in this case, an alley, and the disposal of the property is consistent with the city's general plan, and that these actions do not constitute a project under CEQA. If the commission does make this finding, a report will be forwarded to the City of Hollister City Council, who will then determine whether to vacate and sell the property. This slide shows the location of the property at issue and the outline of what was once the full Weller Alley. The property at issue is the small, narrow rectangle in between 140 San Benito Street and 102 San Benito Street. You can see here that they are outlined in red. The yellow line shows the former location of the rest of the historic Weller Alley. This is what the property looks like today from San Benito Street. It's a vacant lot with Vista Park Hill in the background. This is a drawing showing the original intended use of Weller Alley that was meant to connect San Benito Street to Monterey Street. As you saw in the previous slides, and as you can see here, Monterey Street was never extended to parallel San Benito Street, where it would have connected with Weller Alley. Additionally, the location of Vista Park Hill makes it highly unlikely that Weller Alley would ever be used to connect San Benito Street to any other street. Here is a recorded parcel map from 1979 that, as you can see in the lower right corner, highlighted in yellow, indicates that the alley was abandoned and has not been used since 1979. Additionally, here, you can see that over the years, the rest of the property located within that original Weller Alley designated area has been incorporated into the surrounding private property. So the 10-foot by 80-foot strip that we're talking about tonight is all that remains in city ownership. Given this history, we believe that vacating the property as a street and disposing of it, so selling it, transferring it into private ownership, is appropriate because it has not been used and likely cannot be used as an alley, given the physical hill in the background and the fact that the rest of the alley is owned in private ownership. Therefore, it's no longer needed by the public and is appropriate to be abandoned as a street. We believe that the vacation and disposal of the property complies with the general plan because it doesn't impede the city's ability to meet its general plan goals, nor is the use or development of this 10-foot by 80-foot strip of land contemplated as a means for the city to reach its goals. Finally, the vacation and transfer or disposal of the property does not constitute a project under CEQA because it would not result in the direct physical change or reasonably foreseeable indirect physical change to the environment, nor at this time is the commission issuing a lease, permit, license, certificate, or other entitlement. So with that very short presentation, the options for the commission tonight are to adopt a resolution that vacating the property and disposing of it are not a project under CEQA, that the vacation and disposal of the property conforms with the city's general plan, and that you all would like to convey a report to the city council with your decision. Your second option is to adopt a resolution approving the street vacation and disposal with modified conditions. You can deny the proposed vacation and disposal, or you can continue and ask for more information.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions from the commission?
What's the most likelihood that it's gonna be absorbed into one of the nearby lots? Because it's only 10 feet wide, right?
Did you hear that, Sarah?
No, I'm sorry. It's
That's
really
okay.
difficult to hear you all.
He asked what the likelihood is of the 10 by 80 foot piece of alley being absorbed by an adjoining parcel.
By the neighboring parcel?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's very likely this would be a decision that the city council will have in front of it if you all do decide to find that this is consistent with the general plan. One of their options is to find that it cannot be developed unless it is absorbed into one of the neighboring properties. We also were approached by the owner of both 140 San Benito and 102 San Benito, who requested for the city to look at this and initiated this process.
Any further questions?
The income earned from the sale of this property, would that be something for the city to?
The city council will determine how much, if anything, to charge. There is a possibility that they would only require that the property owner pay for example, legal fees, the fee to survey the lot, the fees associated with abandoning it because it's not of any use to the city.
Since there's interest from both parties, how would they determine who gets it?
Correct me if I'm wrong, Sarah, but both 140 and 102 are owned by the same person. Is that right?
Correct.
Yeah. So
We
it's
get
the same owner.
That's easy.
Yep. Any further questions?
No.
Well, then, is there a motion on the floor?
You would just open it up for public comment.
Okay, sorry about that. We'll open it up for public comment at 8:32.
We've received no speaker cards and no hands are raised online.
We'll close public comment at 8:32. And is there a motion on the floor?
Motion to adopt a resolution that the vacation and disposal of the property is not a project under CEQA, that the vacation and disposal of the property is in conformance with the City of Hollister 2040 General Plan, and that the City Planning Commission will convey a report of this determination to the City Council of the City of Hollister.
We have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it, 4-0, motion carries. And we will move on to item 8.1, Planning Commissioner reports. Any reports from the commission? And I'll start to my left.
Yeah, I just want to make that recommendation to update the municipal code to allow the city to make evaluated exceptions up to 10 feet PUEs. Right now, their limit, I think, is 6 feet, according to the where they can interpret that. So maybe updating that to be 10 feet so they could kind of catch up with prior practice.
Do we have to have them state that as a motion?
No, this would just be direction to staff to bring it back, at which time the commission would vote on it. But we would ask that there be consensus that be brought back. So if at least 3 of you want it brought back, then staff will do that. So looks like there's 3, Amber. At least 3.
Any further discussion regarding the item? And any further report?
No.
No?
I wanted to add to that one, if I can, about the requirements, the municipal code requirements with metal and wood, and could it be a combined?
I think so. It seems it could just be a review of the
Okay.
fence ordinance or some parts of the fence ordinance.
Okay. That's all.
Commissioner Mizzuni? Any reports? No. I just wanted to basically express maybe some concern. The item that was brought forth tonight, am I allowed to discuss it? Or
It depends. I mean, you don't want to discuss the merits of any project because that opportunity has passed.
Mhm.
But if you and you really can't discuss anything, but you can make statements. So if they're more having to do with like the
Broad in general.
process or procedure, you're welcome. It's hard to say when I don't know what you're going to say.
Well, just stop me if I need to be
Okay.
stopped. By setting a precedence, is there legal ramifications to the city by us doing that?
There can be. So, for example, if an issue of any kind made its way all the way to a court, they might look at that as an indicator that the property owner, saw it happen around him or didn't see something happen. And so that could potentially be impactful. What we typically advise staff is that just because something's done wrong in the past doesn't mean that you need to keep doing it wrong. And in fact, you should start doing it right, because it's better to follow the code and do things correctly as long as you can, and not be concerned about what false precedent might have been established in the past, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's hard. It's going to be situation specific in almost all cases, but I guess that would be the biggest impact I can think of.
And I guess my concern is if we start making this a common practice, we're going to just be bombarded with situation after situation. And I think there's a reason for the code, and that's why the code's in place and it needs to be followed. And there's a process in place that needs to be followed as well. Or we're just going to, continuously have hearings because people are just going to take it in their hands to do what they want. And then we'll have to deliberate it this way. So I just wanted to make those comments and get some clarification. I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, I would just, if I could add one more thing, and the code is written as clearly as possible, but it will never, no matter how well written, cover every situation. And so that's one reason that people are given the opportunity to appeal, also because they're entitled to due process. And so I would say that although it's important to follow the code and not encourage people to just appeal any staff decision, there are times when it's appropriate, and also the Planning Commission does have more discretion than staff. And so there are times when you could decide something different than staff, as long as you're able to say why. If you have findings and that distinguish that particular situation from the others, it would be appropriate to make those decisions. But I understand what you're saying. You don't want necessarily to encourage anyone who doesn't like a staff decision to appeal it.
Thank you. And we'll move, unless there's any further reports, no comments. We'll move on to Planning Division reports.
Nothing to report at this time.
Okay, there's one last thing to do. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Yes, so moved.
Absolutely.
We had a second, a third, and that is at 8:38 p.m. Thank you, everybody.
Okay.